Every single morning millions of Americans over 60 sit down with a bowl of oatmeal feeling genuinely good about themselves. And why wouldn't they? Oatmeal has been called one of the healthiest breakfast foods on the planet for decades. Doctors recommend it. Nutritionists push it. Every health article you've ever read has oatmeal somewhere on the good list. But here's what nobody is warning you about. The oatmeal itself? Fine. Great actually. But what you're putting into that oatmeal? That's where things get dangerous. Because some of the most common oatmeal add-ins that seniors use every single morning, things marketed as healthy, things that have been in your kitchen for years, things you'd never suspect, are quietly working against your heart, your liver, your kidneys, and your blood sugar in ways that compound every single day. And the scariest part? Most people have absolutely no idea it's happening. Because the damage isn't dramatic. It doesn't knock you off your feet overnight. It's slow. Subtle. Quiet. And by the time the symptoms show up, the fatigue, the blood pressure creeping up, the blood sugar that won't cooperate, the habit has been going on for years. Today we're pulling back the curtain on 5 specific ingredients that older adults commonly add to their oatmeal, and why each one could be doing far more harm than you realize. Some of these are going to surprise you. Some of them you've probably trusted for a long time. But by the time we're done today you're going to know exactly what to remove, what to swap in instead, and why making even 1 or 2 of these changes could mean noticeably better energy, more stable blood sugar, and real long-term protection for the organs that matter most. Stay with me all the way through because number 4 is one almost everyone gets completely wrong, and it's sitting in most people's pantries right now labeled as a health food. Let's get into it. Number 1, and we're starting here because this one affects more seniors than almost anything else on this list. Brown sugar. Now I already know what some of you are thinking. It's just a spoonful. It's brown sugar, not white sugar, it's the natural one. It's barely anything. I hear you. And I need you to hear this, your body does not care what color the sugar is. Here's what actually happens inside your body when you stir that spoonful of brown sugar into your morning oatmeal. Your digestive system breaks it down almost immediately. Brown sugar is still over 95% sucrose, the same fast-digesting simple sugar as white sugar, and within minutes your blood glucose spikes sharply. Your pancreas scrambles to produce insulin to bring that spike back down. Blood sugar rises. Insulin fires. Blood sugar drops. And somewhere around 10 or 10:30 in the morning you hit a wall. Tired. Foggy. Craving something sweet again. Sound familiar? Here's why this hits seniors harder than younger adults. After 60, your pancreas naturally produces less insulin than it used to. And your cells become gradually more resistant to the insulin it does produce, meaning your body has to work harder to manage the same glucose load it handled easily 20 years ago. When you throw fast-absorbing sugar into that already strained system first thing in the morning, you're not just causing a temporary spike. You're repeatedly stressing a system that has less reserve capacity to handle it. Over months and years that repeated morning stress pattern contributes to worsening insulin resistance, increased belly fat storage, chronic low-grade inflammation in your blood vessels, and a meaningfully higher risk of progressing from normal blood sugar to prediabetes to type 2 diabetes, even in people who genuinely believe they're eating healthy. And brown sugar doesn't just affect your blood sugar in isolation. Sugar triggers dopamine, your brain's reward chemical. When that dopamine hit fades an hour after breakfast, your brain sends out a signal for more. That's not weakness. That's not lack of discipline. That is pure biochemistry working against you. And it starts with that one spoonful before 8 a.m. Think about a woman named Janet. 67 years old, careful about her health, eating oatmeal every morning because she knew it was good for her heart. Added a little brown sugar because plain oatmeal felt too bland. Couldn't figure out for the life of her why she needed a nap by mid-morning almost every single day. Felt like her energy just fell off a cliff around 10 a.m. without fail. Her doctor reviewed her morning routine and zeroed in on the sugar immediately. Janet cut it out. 1 week later her morning energy was noticeably steadier. 2 weeks later the mid-morning crash was essentially gone. She told her doctor, "I honestly thought it was just aging. Turns out it was breakfast." If you need sweetness in your oatmeal, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with wanting your breakfast to taste good, reach for half a sliced banana stirred in while it's cooking. It caramelizes slightly and adds genuine natural sweetness. Or a generous shake of cinnamon and a tiny drop of pure vanilla extract. These options satisfy your palate without sending your blood sugar into a tailspin before your day has even started. Number 2, and this one catches people completely off guard because it seems like the responsible, health-conscious choice. Artificial sweeteners. The little yellow packets. The pink packets. The blue packets. Sucralose, aspartame, saccharin, all of them marketed specifically to people who want to avoid sugar. All of them positioned as the smart alternative. Especially for seniors watching their blood sugar. Here's the problem. And this is backed by a growing body of research that has fundamentally changed how nutrition scientists think about these products. Your body is not fooled by artificial sweeteners. It detects sweetness, that triggers an insulin response in anticipation of incoming glucose. But then the glucose never arrives. And that mismatch, sweetness without the expected energy, creates a cascade of metabolic confusion that researchers are increasingly linking to increased cravings later in the day, disrupted gut bacteria, and paradoxically worse blood sugar control over time despite zero actual sugar consumption. But the issue that concerns doctors most when it comes to seniors specifically is the liver. Almost all artificial sweeteners are processed by your liver. And while a young, fully functioning liver handles that filtration without much difficulty, an aging liver, one that is already managing multiple medications, the natural slowdown that comes with age, and decades of accumulated dietary exposure, gets a daily extra job it didn't need. Over time that adds up to what researchers describe as increased hepatic stress. Sluggish liver function. Elevated liver enzymes on blood work that doctors sometimes struggle to explain until they look closely at the diet. A slower, more burdened liver doesn't just affect your labs. It affects your energy, your digestion, your body's ability to clear inflammation, your hormonal balance. And all of it can be happening quietly for years before a symptom becomes obvious enough to investigate. Think about a man named Charles. 74 years old, diabetic, doing everything he thought was right. Switched to sugar-free everything years ago. Sweetened his oatmeal with artificial sweetener every single morning without fail. Thought he was protecting himself. His annual blood work came back with his liver enzymes slightly elevated. His doctor looked at his diet, identified the daily artificial sweetener use as a contributing factor, and recommended cutting it completely. Charles was skeptical, it seemed too minor to make a difference. Within 6 weeks his digestion had improved noticeably. His follow-up labs looked better. He felt less sluggish in the afternoons. His doctor told him his liver was simply getting a break from a load it had been carrying silently for years. Swap artificial sweeteners for a 1/4 teaspoon of real cinnamon, which actually has documented blood sugar stabilizing properties of its own. Or a splash of pure almond extract. Or cook your oatmeal with a small amount of unsweetened applesauce stirred in. Real food. Real flavor. No metabolic confusion. No liver tax. Number 3, and this one is going to genuinely surprise a lot of people because it sits firmly in the health food category in most people's minds. Dried fruit. Raisins. Dried cranberries. Dried apricots. Dates. Dried blueberries. All of them feel wholesome and natural. They come from fruit after all. How bad could they be? Here's the reality of what happens when fruit gets dried. The water, which makes up the majority of fresh fruit's volume, evaporates completely. The fiber partially degrades. And all the sugar that was spread across a full piece of fruit gets intensely concentrated into a tiny shriveled package. What you end up with is essentially a very small, very dense sugar delivery vehicle with a fraction of the nutritional benefit of the original fruit. A small handful of raisins, maybe 3 tablespoons, contains roughly the same sugar content as eating 3 full bunches of grapes back to back. 2 tablespoons of dried cranberries can contain over 15 grams of sugar, and most commercial varieties have additional sugar syrup added during processing to keep them soft and appealing. That is more sugar than most candy bars per equivalent serving. And here is the specific mechanism that makes this particularly dangerous for seniors. The primary sugar in dried fruit is fructose. And fructose is metabolized almost entirely in the liver, unlike glucose which your muscles and brain can use directly. When your liver receives a concentrated fructose hit every morning, it converts the excess into triglycerides, blood fats, and in repeated high doses over time contributes directly to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. A condition that has become dramatically more common in adults over 60 and that most people never connect to their breakfast routine. Think about a man named Gerald. 69 years old. Ate oatmeal with dried apricots every single morning for years. Thought he was getting extra fiber and vitamins. Couldn't understand why he always felt bloated after breakfast. Couldn't figure out why his blood pressure kept creeping upward despite eating what he genuinely believed was a clean diet. His doctor removed the dried fruit and replaced it with fresh blueberries. The bloating cleared up within days. His blood pressure trended down over the following weeks. Gerald told his doctor, "Those little pieces of fruit were the last thing I would have suspected. The fix is simple and genuinely delicious. Fresh fruit only. A handful of blueberries, raspberries, or blackberries gives you real antioxidants, genuine fiber, and natural sweetness in a form your body is fully equipped to handle. Half a sliced banana. A few thin apple slices cooked right into the oatmeal. Fresh fruit works with your body. Dried fruit, for seniors especially, quietly works against it." Number 4, and this one is marketed so aggressively as a health food that most people never question it for a single second. Flavored instant oatmeal packets. Maple and brown sugar. Peaches and cream. Apple cinnamon. Strawberries and cream. They come in cheerful boxes with words like heart healthy and whole grain printed prominently on the front. They're convenient, they're fast, and they feel like the responsible breakfast choice. But flip that packet over and read the ingredient list. Really read it. What you'll find behind that wholesome marketing is a combination of added sugars, artificial flavors, chemical thickeners, stabilizers, and sodium levels that would genuinely shock most people who eat these every morning. Let's talk sodium first. Many flavored oatmeal packets contain between 200 and 290 milligrams of sodium per single serving. And most people don't eat just one packet. For seniors managing blood pressure, which is the majority of Americans over 65, the American Heart Association recommends staying under 1,500 milligrams of sodium daily. Starting your morning with 200 to 300 milligrams from oatmeal alone, before your coffee, before your toast, before lunch, before dinner, eats deeply into that budget before the day has really begun. Then there's the flavoring itself. That apple cinnamon taste? That maple flavor? It almost never comes from real apples or real maple syrup. It comes from synthetic flavor compounds designed in a lab to trigger the same sensory response as the real thing, without any of the nutritional value. And those synthetic compounds go directly to your liver and kidneys for filtration. Every single morning. Day after day. Year after year. Think about a woman named Carol. 73 years old. Ate flavored oatmeal packets every morning for years, sometimes 2 of them. Genuinely believed she was making the healthy choice because the box said so. Started noticing her hands feeling puffy in the mornings. Blood pressure readings were trending upward. Felt bloated almost every day after breakfast. She switched to plain rolled oats with her own cinnamon and fresh apple slices. Within 2 weeks the puffiness in her hands was gone. Her morning blood pressure readings improved. She told her doctor, "I trusted that box completely." Turns out the box was the problem. Plain rolled oats or steel-cut oats. That is all you need. Cook them yourself. It takes 5 minutes for rolled oats, 15 for steel-cut. Add your own cinnamon, your own fresh fruit, your own small handful of nuts. You control every ingredient. You get all the real benefit oatmeal has to offer with none of the synthetic load your body doesn't need. Number 5, and this one lives in almost every kitchen in America, often right next to the coffee maker. Non-dairy creamer. Powdered or liquid, original or flavored, non-dairy creamers are one of the most heavily consumed food additives among American seniors. People use them in coffee, in oatmeal, in soups. They're convenient. They don't require refrigeration. They last forever on the shelf. And that right there should give you your first pause. Real food doesn't last forever on a shelf. The reason non-dairy creamers have that kind of shelf stability is because of what they're actually made of, and it is not anything close to dairy. Most conventional non-dairy creamers are built on a foundation of partially hydrogenated vegetable oils, which are a source of trans fats, combined with corn syrup solids for sweetness, artificial flavors for taste, and a collection of emulsifiers and chemical stabilizers to hold it all together and give it that creamy texture. Trans fats, even in small daily amounts, are directly linked to increased LDL cholesterol, decreased HDL cholesterol, and systemic vascular inflammation. That combination is one of the most well-established pathways to cardiovascular disease that exists in nutrition science. The FDA has taken significant steps to remove artificial trans fats from the food supply precisely because the cardiovascular risk is so clearly documented. But many products still contain them in amounts small enough to technically label as 0 trans fats per serving, because FDA rules allow products with under 0.5 grams per serving to round down to 0 on the label. If you're using non-dairy creamer every morning, the actual daily trans fat intake adds up to something your heart and blood vessels are absolutely feeling over time. And beyond the trans fats, those emulsifiers and stabilizers go straight to your liver and kidneys for processing. Every morning. Adding to the filtration burden those organs are already carrying. Think about a man named Frank. 75 years old. Stirred powdered creamer into his oatmeal and his coffee every single day without fail. Liked the taste. Never thought twice about it. Started experiencing persistent digestive discomfort and his cholesterol numbers moved in the wrong direction at his annual physical. His doctor looked at his daily habits and pointed directly at the creamer. Frank cut it out completely. 2 months later his cholesterol had improved noticeably and his digestive issues had largely resolved. He told his doctor, "I honestly thought it was just powder. I had no idea it was doing all of that." Swap your non-dairy creamer for a splash of unsweetened almond milk or unsweetened oat milk. Both add genuine creaminess to your oatmeal with clean ingredients your body actually recognizes. If you tolerate dairy, a small splash of whole organic milk gives you real fat, real protein, and real nutrients without a single synthetic compound. A spoonful of plain Greek yogurt stirred into your oatmeal adds creaminess and protein and probiotics. Real options that serve your body instead of burdening it. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Which one of these 7 are you guilty of adding to your oatmeal? No judgment whatsoever. Most people have at least 2 or 3 of these going on without knowing it. Your honesty down in the comments might be exactly what somebody else needs to see to make a change that helps them. If this video gave you something real today, share it. Send it to someone you care about who eats oatmeal every morning. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and ring that bell so you never miss a video built specifically to help you live stronger, healthier, and better in your 60s, 70s, and beyond. Take care of yourself. You've earned it. And I'll see you in the next one.